Fill in.
Hello, everyone. I'm sure that we still have people joining as we speak, but I just want to say I am Lydia Brunk. I am a headquarters staff member who coordinates the RQAP program, and we're here on the call with four different members of the Council of Professional Registration: Franco, Sarah, Nancy, and Dawn. And I'm going to pass things over to Dawn to get started.
All right. Well, thank you and welcome everyone to our February forum for this year, for our annual forum. We are happy to have you on, and we have some good information for you, but beyond that, we also are here to answer your questions. So really quickly, and I don't know, Lydia, if you can just pull up the other folks on here so we can see everybody. I just wanted to introduce the CPR members that are on here. Myself, I'm Dawn Nickham. I am chair of CPR, have been with SQA for the last about 10 years, and am very excited about our year as we work through all of the challenges with CPR for the year. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Franco, and then we'll kind of
Okay.
go Sarah and Nancy.
Hello, everyone. I've just recently been elected to the CPR as a GLP member at large. I've been with the SQA since 2014. I've had the RQAP since 2009, so it's my 15th year.
So,
Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Ballinger. I am the chair-elect for the RQAP committee. I've been with SQA for a number of years, and it's probably been close to 25, I think, now. So it's very nice to meet everybody. Thank you for attending.
Hi, everybody. It's Nancy Moore. I'm the past chair for CPR. I got my RQAP GLP in 2007, I believe. So I'm here to support the other CPR members as we go through this information.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so we want to start out with actually with a poll and kind of understand where all of you are. So Lydia, when you're ready, if you want to go ahead and launch the poll. And we wanted to understand what your current relationship is to the RQAP program. So, have you taken the exam? Have you not taken, but you're planning to? Have you hold an RQAP credential? Maybe some of you did try taking it and did not pass and want to think about trying again, which we always encourage you to do. And do you have a credential and not been through the re-registration? So I see quite a few of the responses come in here. Give it just another tick there. I think that's probably about it, don't you think? All right. Okay. Well, great. We have a nice mix of folks here. I'm just going to make that a little bit bigger. So I never taken the exam, about 50% of you, or actually 78%. So there's a lot of folks on here. I'm sure you're going to have great questions for us. And also, if you've taken it and you want to take it again, and then a few of our folks that do have an RQAP credential and are still doing. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing that.
817-697.
Okay. So let me go ahead and go to the next slide.
817-693.
All right. So just to give you a state of the program where we are, we currently have 279.
Thank you for calling Wellington. You have reached the voicemail of Laura Harris. I'm sorry I missed your call. Please leave a message that includes your name, claim number, and callback number, and I will return your call before the end.
Thank you. Wait, someone needs to be muted. All right. So we currently have 279 RQAP GCP, 487 GLP, still our biggest component of this, but GCP is starting to catch up a little bit. And we have 27 individuals that hold both credentials, which is just amazing. Right now, for our passing rate over the life and exam, GCP is about 74% and GLP is 70%. And we have about 28 candidates for GCP each cycle and 46 in GLP. So again, we're continuing to do this, and we want to continue to expand this credential. I think it's really important, obviously, since I hold it and I'm on this committee, but also I think it really does help the industry move forward as well. Okay, so in order to be eligible for the exam, and these are really important that we put some minimal things in here. So 2 years of full-time GCP or GLP quality assurance experience and a bachelor's degree, or 4 years full-time GCP, GLP, QA, if you do not have a bachelor's. And how we calculate this is we really look at, do you have enough months of equivalent full-time experience? So if you're doing GCP or GLP work in your role about 50% of the time, or 75% because you have other responsibilities, maybe managerial responsibilities, other things within your organization, so it's only part of your time. Then we'll look at that, we take that, what percentage of your time you're doing things and where we go. Yeah, thank you for, I didn't realize the next slide went in this. So, again, think about what your experience is. And the second bullet is really important because there's a good portion of the exam that is around audits and inspections. So really understanding that you understand the types of audits that are applicable to your role, whether you're in the GCP role or GLP role. There are things like computer system validation, informed consent, tests, investigational product accountability, adverse events, study reports, vendor activities, clinical sites, again, depending on which role you're in. It may also include things like SOP writing, review, and overall management. And also, really critically, is the analyzing, evaluating, and advising in matters of GCP and GLP. Thank you. My clicker is not doing what I want it to be. Okay, so what does not count? Experience in GCP and GLP does not equate QA experience. So if you are in the GCP world and you worked as a CRA or worked somehow in clinical operations, or if you're in GLP and you've worked as a study director, certainly you are applying those regulations. The regulations are critical to you, but that's not QA experience. So we want to test the base knowledge and the application of QA principles to practical situations. There are a lot of scenarios on the exam. And because of that, it requires you to know more than just the reference materials. You need to study those, so they're important. But just knowing the regulations is not enough without that QA experience. You're just not going to be successful on the exam. And really, that's what we want. We want people that take the exam. We want to have as many successful people as we can. And, we want to make sure you have the right tools to do that. Okay. So just a little things about costs, and they did, they can go up at any time. We try to be thoughtful, in how we do it. So if you are a non-member and want to take this exam, that it's $625. Any members of our affiliate organizations. So I know we have a list of those, might be like RQA and that sort of thing. They are actually 535 members. You get the lowest rate at 450. And if you're in outreach, they're actually 150. So the outreach countries, again, if you think maybe you're in an outreach country, it's in this link. You can, it's as defined by the World Bank. And also remember, outreach members can get complimentary membership in SQA as an outreach member. There are a couple additional fees. If you don't meet the cutoff for applying for the exam, there is a late fee. And if we need to do some kind of accommodation, For non-native English speakers, then again, that's another $50. If you do have a disability and you do let us know about that, we do not charge for that. And a lot of these fees come from what the exam costs to be administered. So what we're paying the exam organization to actually administer this. Okay, let's see if I can do next slide. All right, so we have a few options. The recommended option is absolutely going to a testing center. So if you're able to, going to the testing center is the best way to take the exam. We have testing centers all over the country. And again, those are available as you sign up. You can look up where the nearest testing center is. We do offer proctored exams from your home or office, but there is a higher incidence of or higher incident rate of exam termination. And that's because when they do a proctored exam, there is a lot of requirements. You know, they are going to look all around your office to make sure you have no other materials in there. You cannot have your phone in with you. Someone will be watching you the whole time that you're taking the exam via your webcam. So having all of that set up is a lot more complex. And if at any time they feel that, you know, you haven't met it, then you're done. Okay. So, you know, again, requirement testing space, there are details on the website, and there may be issues within your country due to technology laws. So again, take a look at the website and see if that is an issue. You can also not have a dictionary accommodation for your non-native English speakers. So, you know, we may allow that accommodation in a testing center where they can review and look at the dictionary, make sure it's only a dictionary, but in your home office, they're not going to know that. So again, you know, it's there, it's an option if you are not able to get to a testing center, but not the ideal option. Okay. So how do we do these exams? Well, there are two exam committees, one for GCP and one for GLP, and we do a job task analysis. What this means is this survey is sent out to individuals that have a credential that are in these fields and really look at what does someone who is a GCP QA person or a GLP QA person, what is their task, what are their job tasks, what is their role, what are the things that we want to make sure that a person taking this exam, it's somewhat, you know, like a little beyond entry level, right? So not someone that's necessarily done this for 50 years, but someone who's done it for 2. You know, what would they be able to do? You're going to look at the content outline based on results. So again, you know, we'll look at the content outline and put that together, and that may get updated from time to time. And then we write exam items to fulfill the content outline. So part of the content outline is also by percentages, you know, what percentage is in each group. We do a passing score study. So we actually test the test before it's going out there, and that's for new items as well. We test those. We do, you know, administer the exam, and then we analyze those items. So as we come back, we see how many people missed it. What are some of the factors? You know, does this correlate with other things they missed and that sort of thing? And the process starts over again. So we're constantly writing exam items. And in fact, those of you that are already RQAPs, if you'd be interested in being an exam writer, you know, certainly you can reach out to us because they are always looking for people to help with that. And in fact, there's sessions going on at the annual meeting planned for those. And you can earn re-registration credits. So there's lots of ways to get re-registered, lots of ways to earn these credits, but that's a really nice one. If you write so many questions or you go to a session, you can get a lot of units really quickly from that way. Let's see if that'll let me go to the next slide. All right. I actually, you know, I emphasized this earlier, but I want to come back to it because it really is critical. Experience is key. If you're an experienced QA person, if you're very comfortable with the regulations for your for whether GCP or GLP regulations, guidances, etc., in your realm. If you're comfortable with that, that's great. But having experience gives you a different light on how things, different way to look at things, a different way to apply things, and that's going to be critical. So experience is key. We really encourage that. The 2 years is really the bare minimum that you want to be at if you have a bachelor's degree. Really think, am I ready? Do I have the requisite knowledge to be successful? Because we want you to be successful. There is a whole handbook that has the content outline and exam references, so you'll see exactly what we're referencing for each exam question. And by the way, when we write those exam questions, we have to put a reference in there. So we don't just write anything. It has to actually reference back to the regulation or guidance or some other document, which again, you have access to. There are practice exams, available for GCP and GLP. I'm going to caution, if you take the practice exam, it is a great way to get a flavor of what exam questions would look like. But don't think just because I pass the practice, I'm good to go. You're still going to want to make sure you have other content, because the content, will not be exactly the same as what's on the exam. Okay. There are connect forums. So again, if you are thinking about doing this, sign up for one of the RQAP candidate connect forums and talk with other individuals that are also in the process of taking the exams, and get tips and tricks. And then finally, there are some organized study groups being put together right now for the exams coming up. And those are an opportunity to hear experienced individuals talk about the critical pieces in the GCP and GLP, content. And, they can also answer your questions around some of, the intricacies around the exam and so forth. They're not going to give you all the answers, but they can certainly help your knowledge base for you to be successful on the exam.
And
So
I'm just going to jump in right now.
Yeah.
Just a quick note that these study groups are separate from the Council on Professional Registration. They are for sort of organizational and testing best practices. But so I have the information on these logistical details that are being organized as we speak. The first study group session will be a joint session sort of on the psychology of testing. So GCP and GLP candidates are both invited to that, and that will be this coming Monday, the 10th of February at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You'll be able to find a registration link on the candidate resource page on our website. And then again, this is kind of emerging information. The GCP study sessions are currently scheduled for Mondays at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, starting Monday, the 17th of February. And GLP study sessions are currently scheduled for Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, starting Tuesday, the 18th of February. Registration is not yet available for those, but I just wanted to let you know, so you can start blocking off time on your calendar if you're interested. Once that is all set up, which should be sometime next week, registration links will become available on the candidate resource page, and an email will go out with that information.
Thank you, Lydia. Okay. All right. So let's talk about re-registering. What happens once I pass, I have this credential. What are the things you can do in order to maintain your registration? And the first one is just taking courses. So any hour of education equals 1 unit. If you're an SQA member, there are tons and tons and tons of webinars that are mostly, for the most part, free for members. So that is a great way to get your education units. If you are able to attend the annual meeting or a chapter meeting, that's also a great way to rack up points. But there's also other things that we have in the SOP, other activities that you do. You know, one of the things, again, it's 48 units every 3 years and 24 discipline specific. So, you know, that's whatever your discipline, you are going to make sure, you want to make sure at least half of those are done in your discipline. But again, it's 48 units a year. Everything submitted online. So if you submit, especially all the self-reported activities, now let me tell you, the SQA activities will automatically come into your online account. So you do not need to report those. In fact, you shouldn't report those because that's double reporting. So those are all taken care of. That takes like the annual meeting, the webinars, all those kind of things. You register through SQA, those will come automatically into your transcript. But the other ones, if you go to other conferences or have other trainings that you're doing, or other activities, including being a member of a specialty section, especially being the vice chair or chair, whether you do some other activities for SQA and volunteering, there's lots of opportunities. So look at the SOP and you can see that. When you submit those, a volunteer will be, and I want to really say we're volunteers, just like everything else. The re-registration committee will review those. They get assigned to individuals in the re-registration committee, and we determine if this has met the criteria for renewal. Again, any RQAP members that are interested in being the re-registration, you can reach out as well. You know, again, that's another way to do that. But again, if you have really thorough documentation, so make sure you show us what the course is, how many hours the course was. If you have a certificate that you know, even has how many contact hours you have in there. If you have any other documentation that shows that you actually attended the course, you know, all of that is going to make it very easy. And particularly if you have anything in a foreign language, make sure you have translation with that for there, because, you know, again, you may not have that native speaker that can translate those types of records. So, you know, take a look, make sure, remember, if it wasn't documented, it wasn't done. I just had to throw that in there. You know, that's what we're looking at. Also, you know, be very aware when you're filling out the form that it is correct, that it matches up with the documentation you're giving there. If you are not able to show us like a certificate or something like that, there is a box that you can check as an attestation that says, I verify that I attended this. That's an option to do, but we would prefer to see actual documentation. So again, you know, that's the way to do that. You can re-register without paying for any conferences or training courses. I mean, it is harder, but it can be done. So don't feel like has to be a huge outlay of cash. Even just by being an SQA member, you can pull up a lot of things, but there's certainly a lot of free conferences and webinars and everything that are out there that can all count for your re-registration as well. Come on, there we go. Okay, so here's some ideas. You know, if you have in-house training by your organization, so you know, someone does a presentation on ICH E6R3, and you attend that training, and you can give us evidence of attending that training, that can count towards re-registration. The exception is SOP training. So training on your own organization SOPs does not count. You can present at a webinar or a conference session. We're always looking for presenters. I also wear an EdCom hat. We're always looking for presenters for webinars. So if you have a great webinar you want to present, that you can get re-registration points for that. Attend one of those webinars. You know, serve on an elected or appointed board or committee, okay? Serve as a volunteer committee or specialty section chair or vice chair. Write an article. We're always looking for articles for QA matters as well. So again, you know, if you have a subject you're passionate about, write an article, get it submitted. Be part of the mentoring program. Mentoring program either as a mentor or a mentee. You can get points that way. You can review conference abstracts to get points, and also you can help with the exam development activities. So lots of really low or no cost registration activities that are available for you.
just quickly, I wanted to share something before we move on to discussing this. I quickly wanted to show, I apologize for going a little rogue, Dawn. I wanted to show on the SQA website where you can find this information about the activities that are eligible. So just quickly, this is where we are on the SQA website. If you go to the RQAP credential area and then go to re-registration, and then over here in the corner, you'll see qualifying activities. This is an amazing resource. It essentially takes the information that's on the re-registration SOP and walks you through each category of activity type, and then tells you how many units you can earn for it and what documentation is required to have that approved as self-reported learning. So for example, you could look down over to service activities and see that participation as a chair, co-chair, vice chair, or co-vice chair on a volunteer committee or a special interest group specialty section for a relevant professional membership association or society. And then you could see the invitation to serve as the chair or vice chair. Thank you letter or copies of the attendance section can all be accepted as sufficient evidence for that. And I also want to recommend the general re-registration page on the website here. It gives you a step-by-step of the process that you can go through, and there is a video here on submitting self-reported learning, how to do it. It walks you through that on both how to submit it and how to make an update once you have submitted. So again, Dawn, apologies for going rogue. I'll take it back to our slideshow now.
No, absolutely. I think that's helpful. Hopefully people found that helpful.
Let's see. All right. Give me just a second, and then we will get back to.
Okay. Go to that next slide. Yeah, so why be an RQAP? You know, we asked, so we actually did a survey of management, got 210 responses. And you can see the level here, anyone from, the VPs, other supervisors, and, about a good chunk of them either being managers or directors. So why does anyone care? And they do. And they care because it does confirm that an employee has a working knowledge of the necessary regulations. And that's really critical. So depending on what type of role you have, what type of work you're doing, I know as a vice president of a service organization, I get asked about the credentials of my QA employees when I'm sending them out as consultants. And showing that they have an RQAP credential is just, it speaks for itself. It's really known out there. It serves as a good goal for QA employees, so it's a good way to show you're moving up in your career, that you have a strong and knowledgeable and reliable QA function within the organization. So again, if your organization is getting audited or inspected, it does show that additional level that you are expecting of your organization. It does increase the confidence. I actually hit this, of current and future clients that have work we do. And then again, it provides a justification to keep our QA employees trained because they need continuing education to renew their credential. So that gives you a little pushback to management if they're trying to cut your continuing education hours. Why is it important that they stay up to date? And that's really a piece of this. So this is what they said, and I think we probably all could add a few other things that why the credential is great. But yeah, I've always thought it was really important. But what benefits you have? So again, we asked 144 registrants to rate how much the credential benefited them from being, 1 to 5. And, being hired or promoted within your job, about 55% of them rated that credential as a 4 or 5. One respondent even said, hey, my senior positions require the credential. So that's great to even see. Some are earning a higher salary than they had without the credential. About 39% said that. And again, it really, it forces you to complete the continuing education. And, I look at this, I always feel I'm a lifelong learner, but it really does force you to make sure you're going, go to some of those webinars, go do some of these activities that really help enhance you as an individual in your professional growth. So again, and about 57% of response companies paid for the continuing education fees to maintain the credential. So, a little over half, but again, we did show that there are some very low cost ways to do this. Okay, so I'm going to kind of wrap up my talking and we're going to open this up for questions from the organization. But again, we do have the website and we do have an FAQ. Lydia actually just showed us that, on there for particularly for re-registration, but we also have all these links in here, particularly for around if you're taking the GCP or the GLP exam. We looked at re-registration. And there's also an FAQ. And, most notably, if you have a question, email rqap@sqa.org anytime, and we will get back to you. We want to make sure we keep everybody well informed about the credential and give you the best opportunities to do this. Do I have just a question slide? Let's see. Okay. So I want to open it up for questions from the organization, and I don't know if any of my other co-panelists want to add anything to what we've said. Lydia, that's to you. We are sending out the slide deck. Is that
I'm just
correct?
Yes, the slide deck will be available on the website. We won't be sending it out per se. I may send it out to those participants who registered, but it won't be sent out broadly, but it will be available to download on the RQAP page as well.
Great. Any other questions?
Dawn, I had one thing that we emphasized in the past. All the prices listed in the slide deck, I don't know if we said it was in US dollars, but
I think it had a dollar sign, but it is in
was it
US.
on the hop slide?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good
So
point.
that's important to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for adding that. I'm going to put Marco on the spot, or Franco on the spot here. What is your favorite thing? You've been an RQAP for a long, long time.
Oh, I just celebrated my 15th year. Yeah, 15th
Yeah.
year. I got my certificate, and it's really worth it. I did it back when I did it in 2009, which is basically I did it after only about 4 years in QA, and I did it. I wasn't really experienced. I took a chance and did it. But like I said, the experience is you have to study not only the regulations itself, but you have to have experience doing in the QA. Because if I did it now, I would have been different because I had like almost 20 years of experience in QA. But back then I didn't have much, but I took a chance. I studied it, but I also take advice from other people and more experienced QA people to how to do the exam. And basically, it wasn't an easy exam, but it was worth it. Once you get it, it's worth it.
Mhm.
So I've been
Yeah.
since then. I've been to many conferences. I've been to webinars. I've learned a lot from many people. So it's a good thing to have.
Yeah, great question. So one of the questions we have is, should you wait to pursue the certification if you only have a year and a half, 100% experience, and a 0.5, 50% experience? So if I'm doing the numbers quickly in my head, you wouldn't meet the criteria anyway. And yes, I would wait. Because that minimum of 2 years of experience, which really is not that much, that minimum is going to be critical for you. So again, yeah, go ahead and wait. Make sure you have that time. If it means you delay it until, the second half of the year or whatever, I think that's perfect. There is only one practice there should be a practice, there is 2 practice RQP exams, right? Some questions, practice questions.
There's one RQAP GCP practice exam and one RQAP GLP practice exam. So
Yeah,
there was only one practice
one of
exam
each. Yeah, one of
per.
each. Exactly. Yeah. Okay, and besides experience as suggested, what other study materials would you highly recommend? The amount of materials can be overwhelming. Yeah, I agree. The amount of material is overwhelming, but it's really the materials listed there are the ones that we would expect that you would know at this level. You would know or have a familiarity with. It's not that you have to memorize this, but you do have to have a good understanding. Lydia, can we go back to the experience slide? Someone is asking a question around that. No, no. Yeah, I don't know if it was this one or the other one. So, yeah, how do you know if you qualify for 2 years of GLP experience? Can you consult with someone before applying? My experience, 2 years, 50%. Yeah, I mean, if you really have a question and you want to send it, to rqap@sqa.org, we're happy to look at that and come up with those numbers for you. I mean, it's really a matter of math. So, if you say I've had 2 years that I was half-time QA, that really equates to 1 year. And then you had 5 years in a quality role, but use a different regulation. So it may not, yeah, if you're not in the GLP role, those years unfortunately probably wouldn't be sufficient. And then you're back in consulting at 10%. So again, that would be questionable, but you can always send us a message and say, this is my experience. I don't want to pay the application fee yet. Can you, give me a heads up if I'm going to do that. Once you see how soon after we expect to see our application confirmed after applying. So just to give you a little sense of the process, when you apply, those applications are then sent out to CPR members, and we do try to go through those as quickly as possible. But it kind of depends on how many applications we have and how many questions we have in that so far. Lydia, do you have an estimate of how long it usually takes us to get back? It's about within a few weeks, usually, I think.
So essentially, it depends. We do again just peeling back the curtain a little bit. On an organizational level, we do this in sort of cycles. So if you send in your application right before the deadline, it'll go in the same batch as someone who sent it in a few days before that. Um, and then again, it can also be delayed if the person has questions about it. I would say it's going to be somewhere between 2 to 3 weeks typically, but it could be 4 or 5 weeks depending on if there's any complications in the process. CPR members are human beings too, as well, so there can be things that happen in their lives that delay your exam review that aren't necessarily related to your exam application. If you submit. You will receive a notification by mid-March, essentially at the latest, which is
Thank you
what we
very much.
guarantee you.
And I don't know if there's an exam center in Vancouver.
I can answer
So,
that.
Do we have
Dawn,
one?
can I actually take I can, I just wanted to show people something since I'm seeing
Perfect.
questions about exam centers.
Yep.
I'm gonna go ahead and change up my screen share here.
Sure.
I have a update for the centers in Canada. There's one province
Yes.
that's no longer giving it.
Oh, that's correct, Franco, if you want to mention that.
Yeah, so there are testing center across all of Canada, and it used to be in Quebec, but it's no longer given in Quebec because of the language law. Because if you have to take it in Quebec, you have to translate the entire report exam in
Oh, in
French.
French.
So basically, the closest to Montreal and is Ottawa. So if you have to do it in Quebec, you have to go to the closest is Ottawa. So that's it.
And then so where I'm showing where you should be seeing right now is the Society of Quality Assurance part of the Pearson VUE website. Pearson VUE is the provider that we use for our tests, and they have a SQA page here. And what you can do if you're interested is go to View Test Centers and find seat availability, and then click on your preferred exam type. So for this, let's just say GCP. And it takes you essentially through a simulation of scheduling your exam. And so I apologize, it's being a little slow today, but supposing you are looking for where in-person test centers are located, so you would say, I'm taking it in person at a test center. And again, this is a simulation, so it tells you, it shows you what you would see if you were actually scheduling, which is that preparatory information. You select next, and then you put in your address. So I'm just going to say Washington, D.C., and it'll choose what the closest address is to that. And then it'll give you an option. It'll show you on this map where these testing centers are located, and it will also give you a list here on this side, and you can always show more. If those are not working for you, continue to show more and more and more. And then you can pick up to 3 at a time to compare the actual availability. And you can see that, for example, this community tech has a lot of appointments available in February and in March. That you can look at what Pearson Professional Centers has in March and April. That's somewhat more limited. This East, April and March. So essentially, we recommend that you try and see if you can find at least 2 or 3 exam centers that would work for you. Because we contract with Pearson VUE, this means that it's not as if these exam appointments are reserved for SQAs for exclusive use. So an appointment could be taken by someone else in the meantime. So we always recommend that you see if you can find something that has a lot of appointments available and that you have a backup option if your first option isn't available for you. And we do recommend Pearson Professional Centers if there is one available. They tend to be of a little bit higher caliber simply because the Pearson Professional Centers are dedicated for testing, and some of the others are part of Pearson's extended network, which allow everyone to have a chance to take the exam, but they are not exclusive for testing. And then Cynthia in the chat said, do we have to wait to select the exam center until our application has been accepted? Yes, there's no way to schedule an exam appointment before you've been authorized to take the exam. So this is just a simulation of the process, but you can see that this exam requires pre-authorization before an appointment can be scheduled.
Okay, great questions. And, again, I don't think most people have had trouble finding exam appointments. It's just, I think the challenges are in some places finding the exam center that's closest to you might be the biggest challenge. But
Yeah.
other than
The good thing about these centers that are out there everywhere, I remember when I was taking it, it used to come to Canada once a year. Once a year we could have done it. So
yeah, the exam centers make it a lot better. So we did, does SQA offer any instructor tutor, not study session type of programs for these exams? Not specifically instructor tutor, but the mentor-mentee program is an option for that. And I've actually been a mentor for someone preparing specifically for the RQAP exam. So, that could be an option if that, sign up for that. And I think registration for that is going on right now. So definitely put that down. That is, again, another volunteer that would be happy to help with you preparing for your exam. Okay, any other? You're welcome. Are we allowed to bring, no. Are we allowed to bring the Code of Federal Regulations handbook to use during the test? I have a minute, yeah. No, you are not allowed to bring any reference material into the exam. It's very limited. In fact, when you go into the exam room, you can't have your phone, you can't have any of those kind of things. They actually will give you a locker to put all of that stuff in. So it's usually, yeah, just if I remember right, it's been a minute, but it's really minimal of what they're going to allow within the exam room. It's basically you and the computer. So you just have to read the regulations. And and here's the thing around the regulations, I tell people, it's not about memorizing every little piece of them. It's about knowing the big spirit of the regulations, know how to apply those in your daily job, which that's part of where the experience level comes from. That, it's not just looking up, does the regulation say X, Y, or Z, but actually understanding that this is overall in the regulations. And so, yeah, and this is from Patricia, thank you. She said just for the GLP exam, she said studying the FDA preambles was very helpful. Yeah, the online exam, so to sit through is tough. You could not use the restroom. That's right. If you do you do the proctored exam, you can't leave your office. The exam, it finishes because they don't know what you're going out to do while you're outside. So there's no way to manage that. So that's better having the test center to plan for that. Okay, any other questions? Don't see any others coming through. I want to thank everyone. Thank you to the team coming on to the call. Thank you, Lydia, for all your tidbits adding into here. And mostly I want to encourage you, if you have the experience, go sign up, take the exam. If you have any questions, send them our way. That's what we're here to help you with as well. And we hope to see next year a bunch of you with an RQAP certification.